At the Far Out event, Apple unveiled 4 brand new iPhones. Any one of them could be a great option, from the highest end Pro Max to the basic iPhone 14 to the larger iPhone 14 Plus. But which one has the right features for you? Let's find out. Before we get into all the details, here's a quick word from today's sponsor, Bellroy. Bellroy is a global brand that covers all your everyday carry needs. And this time, they're back with 3 new cases for the iPhone 14 lineup. To start things off, they have the Mod phone case and wallet. Made of an eco-tanned leather, it feels great in the hand, while its microfiber lining ensures it won't scratch your devices. It's super slim and integrates perfectly with their Mod wallet, which snaps into place on the back and holds 3 cards securely in place. Next up, they have the Bio phone case. It's made of an organic-based polymer and bamboo filler, so at the end of its life, it can be composted, breaking down in about 6 months. But you aren't giving up on protection, as it's also their most protective case yet. It's super slim, looks great, and is backed by their 3-year warranty. Finally, they have the 3-card phone case. Rather than the removable wallet of the Mod case, this one integrates the card holding directly into the side. It's made of that same eco-tan leather to look and feel great, and the magnetic door on the back keeps your cards safely tucked away while keeping your device protected. Coming in a variety of colors, all of Bellroy's cases will complement your iPhone's look without adding a ton of bulk. If you head down to the link in the video description, you can pick up one of these cases and get an exclusive 10% off anything on their site. Thanks again to Bellroy for sponsoring today's video. To start things off, one of the most evident changes between the normal iPhone 14 and the iPhone 14 Pro is the notch, or on the Pro models, what Apple's calling the dynamic island. Apple introduced the notch with the iPhone 10, allowing them to have the front-facing camera and Face ID sensor in the top of the device, while also extending the screen to the top bezel. With the Pro versions of the iPhone 14, they have shrunk down that section even more, now placing the depth sensor behind the screen. Most of the time, it will appear as a long pill shape up top, but depending on the situation, it can adjust in shape and size to, as Apple puts it, bubble up music, sports scores, FaceTime calls, or other relevant information without interrupting whatever else is on your screen. This shouldn't lead to too many major changes in usability, and I wouldn't say it's a reason to go with the Pro over the standard 14, but it looks good, and if Apple's event accurately reflects how it will act in the real world, seems incredibly convenient. But let's talk about those displays. The iPhone 14 and iPhone 14 Pro have 6.1-inch displays, while the iPhone 14 Plus and 14 Pro Max have 6.7-inch displays. All the devices have basically identical pixel densities of about 460 ppi, but technically speaking, the Pro versions have a very slightly higher resolution with about 20 more vertical pixels and less than 10 more horizontal pixels. Apple describes all these displays as Super Retina XDR, and all of the iPhone 14 models have HDR support, a wide P3 color gamut, True Tone, and, thanks to being OLED, a fantastic contrast ratio. iPhone 14 Pro models step things up though, bringing high refresh rate support, a higher peak HDR brightness of 2000 nits when outdoors, and an always-on display. The high refresh rate, up to 120 Hz, should make the phone feel smoother while scrolling, while the higher maximum brightness will make it easier to view even in harsh direct sunlight. Making use of an adaptive refresh rate, which Apple calls ProMotion, the OLED display on the Pro models can update as little as once per second, reducing power draw and allowing it to always display the time and any other pertinent information that's now shown on the lock screen with the widgets and live activities that come with iOS 16. Another quite upfront difference between the Pro and non-Pro iPhone 14 models are the color options. The standard 14 and 14 Plus are available in blue, purple, midnight, starlight, and product red. The Pro models are a bit less colorful, coming in deep purple, gold, silver, and space black. There's really not too much more to say there, as phone color is definitely a personal choice. If you have your iPhone in a case, it won't even matter. While phone color won't matter much, the camera definitely will. The Pro and non-Pro iPhone 14s vary quite a bit here. The non-Pro iPhones have a 2-camera array, with one 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera and one main 12 megapixel camera. The iPhone 14 Pro models have 3 cameras, with a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 48 megapixel main camera, and a 12 megapixel 3x telephoto camera. Most of the time, that 48 megapixel sensor in the main camera will be used as a 12 megapixel camera, combining pixels to reduce noise and increase detail in images. But it also allows Apple to offer a 2x telephoto option by taking a 12 megapixel crop from that sensor to offer something in between the telephoto lens and the main camera without a massive loss of detail. All the phones have photographic styles, portrait mode, and night mode, but the Pro models also offer Pro RAW capture, so people who want to spend their time editing captures to get the most of them have more data to work with. On the video side, the whole iPhone 14 lineup offers 4K recording at 24, 25, 30, or 60 frames per second, 1080p slow-mo recording at up to 240 frames per second, 4K 30 FPS cinematic video, and Dolby Vision HDR videos at up to 4K 60 frames per second. That alone is more than enough for most people, but with the improved camera, the iPhone 14 Pro can offer more digital zoom in video, up to 9 times rather than 3 times. The Pro models can also record ProRes video at up to 4K 30 FPS to provide more data to work with in editing. But that's limited to 1080p 30 FPS for the Pro models that only have 128 gigs of storage. On the front cameras, all the iPhone 14 models have a 12 megapixel sensor with 4K video recording at up to 60 FPS. And now the whole lineup has gained autofocus in those cameras. To power it all, the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus have the same A15 Bionic chip as last year's devices. The Pro and Pro Max models have switched over to the A16 Bionic chip. Apple says this new chip uses a 4nm process, and the chip is a bit more powerful, but both the processors have 2 performance and 4 efficiency CPU cores, a 5-core GPU, and a 16-core neural engine. I doubt most people will notice any difference in performance between the devices, as they're already very powerful and optimized chips. Keeping the devices juiced up, how do the batteries compare? Well, the base iPhone 14 has the shortest lasting battery, which Apple lists as 20 hours of video playback. The 14 Pro gets an extra 3 hours, bringing it to 23 hours. The 14 Plus has 3 more hours on top of that at 26, and Apple says the Pro Max can last up to 29 hours of video playback. Of course, that will vary a fair bit in the real world, with things like streaming and background tasks all having an effect on how long you can go between charging up your device. There are a ton of similarities, like all the same charging options, but there are a few more minor changes between the Pro and non-Pro models of iPhone 14 that could help you make the choice. The Pro versions both have a LiDAR scanner, which could be a real help for some very specific professions. The Pro models also have slightly better GPS. And the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus have standard glass backs and an aluminum body, while the Pros have a textured rear glass and a stainless steel design. And lastly, let's get into pricing. The iPhone 14 starts at $799, while the iPhone 14 Plus starts at $100 more, $899. The iPhone 14 Pros follow a similar pattern, with the iPhone 14 Pro starting at $999, the iPhone 14 Pro Max starting at $1099. The storage prices are all the same between the models, with the models starting out with 128 gigs of storage, the 256GB model costing $100 more, and the 512GB model costing $200 more than that. With the Pro models, you can go up to 1TB of storage, which adds another $200, bringing the total cost of a maxed out iPhone 14 Pro Max to $1599. With how easily iCloud storage can integrate with iPhones, most people won't need to upgrade their storage much. The return of the Plus branding brings Apple's larger form factor to a lower price point. But anyone who liked smaller iPhones may be disappointed by the lack of a small device this time around. Apple is keeping the iPhone 13 mini available for sale though, so if you really prefer a small device, going with last year's model may be the way to go. In my view, the biggest reason to upgrade to the Pro models over the standard 14 or 14 Plus is the camera. The Pro models have an additional telephoto lens, which can really come in handy, and the Pro has the upgraded and larger 48 megapixel sensor for better low light and more detail. the ability to capture ProRAW photos for additional customization, and ProRes video also make the Pro models my go-to choice. I'm going to go with an iPhone 14 Pro with 512 gigabytes of storage, because stepping it up from the 128 gigabyte model opens up the ability to capture 4K ProRes, and I want to have enough storage to capture a lot of it. But I also don't really need the additional size of the Pro Max. Let me know which phone you plan to go with, and more importantly, why you're going with that model in the comments down below. Give this video a like if it helped you out, and subscribe to the channel for more from 9to5Mac.